like I said, one day she was fine. The next day she had the flu, and she's never been the same.
Welcome to Heart with Anna. I am Anna Jaworski and the host of your program. We are in our 14th season, and we are so happy that you're with us today. I'd like to announce a new contest that we'll be conducting for the summer of 2019. We want to hear your stories. We want to know how an episode of Heart with Anna has impacted your life. We'll share your 500 to 2,000 word story. We'll post them on our website, and we'll let people vote for the story that touches them the most. The first place winner will get a Heart with Anna shirt of their choice. The second place winner will get a Heart with Anna tote bag, and the third place winner will get a Heart with Anna mug. See heartsunitetheglobe.org for more information. Today's show features a heart mom, and our episode is entitled A Connection Between the Flu, Arthritis, and Heart Disease, A Mother's Instincts. Marie O'Donnell is heart mom to Anna, who was born with complex congenital heart disease. Anna is a Fontan Warrior and has been a model cardiac patient for more than a decade. Anna was born with double outlet right ventricle, complete atrioventricular canal defect, patent ductus arteriosus, heterotaxy syndrome, ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and anxiety disorder. Marie O'Donnell is a return guest. During Season 2, Marie joined Kathy Baker and Dawn Silverman in an episode entitled Making Memories Every Day. Marie is a school teacher and has worked with the Make-A-Wish Foundation as a wish granter. Welcome back to Heart with Anna, Marie.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me again. So great to talk to you.
I know it's been a while.
It has been 2-3 years, maybe.
So I was mortified, Marie, when I heard that Anna contracted the flu last year. Why don't you tell us about what happened?
So she had been immunized, and we get her the flu shot every year. I get it through my work. My husband gets it. We always are really careful about that. But for somehow she got a strand that that wasn't covered in the vaccine. So it put her out for at least 2 weeks. She missed school. It was bad, really bad.
Yeah, it's unusual for a kid to stay down that long. And Anna was a junior when this happened?
Right. She was a junior in high school, so it's really crunch time. She's always been eyes to college, and here she was missing 2 weeks of school. And then when she got back to school, even then, she was calling to be dismissed day after day because she was exhausted. She really was. To the point where she couldn't get from one class to another. Some of her classes that were spread out in the building, it was really bad. It was like she was a different kid. For months. It was months before.
Oh my gosh, for months.
Yeah. She would come home from school early and then go right to bed and sleep through. It was really scary.
What did the doctors do?
When she was first diagnosed in the pediatrician's office, they immediately had me call the cardiac office at Boston Children's to find out if she could take Tamiflu. And this was crazy. I called them, and the nurse on the line in the cardiac clinic, when I told her my daughter was just diagnosed with flu A, the nurse goes, "Oh." I was like, "Lady, don't say oh. Now you're freaking me out. What do you mean, oh?" I was like, that's not what I want to hear.
Yeah.
But yes, in fact, Anna could take the Tamiflu. So we gave her the Tamiflu, which is supposed to make the symptoms not as severe. But yet still she was out of school for 2 weeks and still not bouncing back. We ended up seeing the cardiologist it was probably 6 or 8 weeks after she had gotten the flu. And he didn't like what he saw. Her liver was enlarged, and it just kind of snowballed. He started working with her medicine to try to combat the swelling of her liver and her pressures, but nothing really touched it.
Oh, that's just so scary. Marie, what were you thinking as your daughter faced yet another chronic diagnosis?
It was hard because we had been smooth sailing for a long time, especially cardiac-wise. Her Fontan she had when she was 4.5, and she'd been pretty problem-free since. Mm-hmm. And so it's really worrisome. And she was acting like an 85-year-old woman. She was really struggling. Then to have this she's a teenager, and you want her to be able to do all the things that all her friends are doing, but she was just sleeping. She was too tired.
Yeah. So did you worry that maybe the upper respiratory flu symptoms were going to affect her heart?
Absolutely. I mean, at that point, you could see she had a lot of heavy breathing.
Mm-hmm.
She was showing signs of cyanosis. Her lips were blue. She was really struggling. So I felt like there was definitely a connection, just because it was like a light switch from the day the day before she had the flu, she was fine. And then she just never was better.
Texas Heart Institute were offering us a mechanical heart, and he said, "No, Dad, I've had enough. Give it to someone who's worthy."
My father promised me a golden dress to twirl in. He held my hand and asked me where I wanted to go.
Whatever strife or conflict that we experienced in our long career together was always healed by humor.
Heart to Heart with Michael. Please join us every Thursday at noon Eastern as we talk with people from around the world who have experienced those most difficult moments.
Tonight Forever by the Baby Blues Sound Collective.
I think what I love so much about this CD is that some of the songs were inspired by the patients.
Many listeners will understand many of the different songs and what they've been inspired by. Our new album will be available on iTunes, Amazon.com, Spotify.
I love the fact that the proceeds from this CD are actually going to help those with congenital heart defects.
Enjoy the music.
Home Tonight Forever.
You are listening to Heart with Anna. If you have a question or comment that you would like addressed on our show, please send an email to Anna Jaworski at anna@hearttoheartwithanna.com. That's anna@hearttoheartwithanna.com. Now, back to Heart with Anna.
Marie, before the break, we were talking about how Anna contracted the flu and the problems that caused. And as if the flu wasn't bad enough, I know that Anna started to experience some other symptoms. So can you tell us about that?
Sure. During that time, she started complaining about her hands and her knuckles being sore and her fingers. We were so focused on her breathing struggles and her cardiac struggles. That pain was secondary. And I did mention it to the cardiologist at the time. It just didn't feel like it was a burning problem at that moment because I was so concerned for her cardiac-wise.
Sure. Well, and breathing, and if you're saying that she was turning blue and all of that, that seems way more concerning than some hands that are sore. So now the next thing you know, we have referrals. Why don't you tell us about some of the referrals that Anna had?
Absolutely. And wouldn't you know, this was the 1 year my husband and I switched our insurance from a PPO to an HMO. So literally I had to do all the referrals. We've since switched back so that I don't have to do referrals. But anyway, they referred us to a pulmonologist, a hepatologist, and a rheumatologist.
Wow.
And the rheumatologist was amazing. And she ended up diagnosing Anna with arthritis.
Remind all of our listeners, how old is Anna?
Anna is 18 now. At the time, She was 17.
17, and she's being diagnosed with arthritis. Does arthritis run in your family?
It doesn't. And then at that point, I started really Googling like crazy, even though they tell you not to. But I kept feeling like there has to be a connection here. There has to be a reason. And I did find that there is something called reactive arthritis, which can come on after illness. None of what I read online said flu to teenage girls, turning teenage girls into having arthritis. But again, I just kept feeling there was a link because it seemed too coincidental.
Right. Because if she had been experiencing problems with her hands before she had the flu, then you might have thought, this is just something special with Anna. But the fact that it happened concurrently while she's also suffering from these flu symptoms, I would think there's a connection as well.
The really tricky part is that now the rheumatologist has to work with the cardiologist because medication for arthritis is very complicated, as is her medication for her cardiac symptoms. So they had to get together and figure out which course of medication would be best for Anna.
Oh, my goodness. And you said that she also saw a pulmonologist, right? Why did she have to see a pulmonologist?
They did a catheterization. She hadn't had one in 10 years, and they detected her pressures were too high in her Fontan pathways. So that's what led us to the lung specialist and the liver specialist, because her liver was swelling at the time as well. And so they wanted to rule out lung disease, liver disease. And what they determined was the only damage was what they would have expected from Fontan, from the Fontan pathways. So it was a heart issue that was causing the pressures to be high, if that makes sense.
Wow. But it seems odd that none of this came about until she had the flu.
Exactly. Like I said, one day she was fine. The next day she had the flu, and she's never been the same.
Even now, over a year later, she still hasn't been the same?
She's still struggling right now. Yeah, she's using a wheelchair to go distances, even now. But they do have an idea of what to do to help her, so that's good. But it's taken a year and a half.
That's just so scary. Hard to believe.
And we're at Boston Children's. So we're at one of the top heart centers. Her cardiologist, it doesn't get better than him. And he has said to us time and time again, I just don't know what's going on.
Dr. Marks has been on Heart to Heart with Anna before, and I just think he's fabulous. And he's world-renowned. People know about him all over. So, yes, she's had excellent care. Right. So if he doesn't know what's going on, then I'm sure he's reaching out to other cardiologists in other places too. Do you know if there are other parents who are also experiencing a heart child having the flu with such severe consequences?
I don't. That's a great question. I could probably find that out in the Facebook groups that I'm part of. Of course, it might scare the poor people that are afraid to take their heart babies out in public.
I know.
I do worry sometimes.
I know. You know what, Marie? This is what scared me about having Alex in school. And this was one of the reasons I was so happy I was a homeschool mom. Because during flu season, we didn't go out that much. We just stayed away from the crowds because even though we got the flu shot just like you did, this is a perfect example of how you can get the flu shot, but it does not cover every single strain of the flu.
It's so true. I do remember Dr. Marks telling us when she was teeny tiny, live a life, live your life. You have to live your life. Homeschooling wasn't an option for me. And it was unfortunate. It really is. She's still struggling with the arthritis. There's no cure per se for arthritis, but you can go into remission.
Oh, I didn't know that. I have a friend who has rheumatoid arthritis, and her hands definitely seem worse affected at certain times, like if it's real rainy, if it's cold and rainy, especially. We don't have a whole lot of rain in central Texas where I live, so that's not usually a problem. And the cold rain is only in the winter. So she's actually from St. Thomas. And in the wintertime, she goes back to St. Thomas. I mean, there's a solution.
We live in New Hampshire, so that's not going to work for us. Our life is in New Hampshire.
So did she notice that during the wintertime, it did affect her more severely?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. She has days that it's awful. Part of what she's being treated with now for the arthritis is a biologic, so it's an infusion once a month. And she can feel at week 3, she feels it starting to bother her again.
Oh,
and she looks forward to these 5 or 6 hour infusions sessions because she knows she's going to get relief. It really, I can't tell you, it's really a bummer because she did not need another thing. She really didn't.
No, she didn't.
And she went through her senior year feeling fatigued and breathless and sore. It was a rough year, but she did it. So now we celebrate her persistence and her accomplishment.
I know. I saw her in her cap and gown on Facebook, and I was like, you go, Anna.
Yes, exactly. We were so, I know that we were very celebratory at that graduation, and people may have thought I was a crazy person, but I earned it.
Oh, I don't think you're crazy. I think anytime your kid graduates from high school, that's an accomplishment. But anytime one of our kids who is dealing with chronic illness is able to persevere through those chronic illness diagnoses, I mean, especially the poor kid had a catheterization, these infusions. She had a lot going on. For those kids to make it, wow.
Yeah, her school was amazing. And actually at graduation, her principal mentioned her, not by name, but mentioned his opening speech was, for some of you graduates, this was easy. And for others, you faced some really serious medical challenges and you're still here and we see you and we're proud of you. That was a really special moment for us because we knew he was talking to her.
Hi, my name is Jamie Alcroft, and I just published my new book, The Tin Man Diaries. It's an amazing story of my sudden change of heart as I went through a heart and liver transplant. I can think of no better way to read The Tin Man Diaries than to cuddle up in your favorite Hearts Unite the Globe sweatshirt and your favorite hot beverage, of course, in your Hearts Unite the Globe mug, both of which are available at the Hug Podcast Network online store, or visit heartsunitetheglobe.org.
Heart to Heart with Anna is a presentation of Hearts Unite the Globe and is part of the Hug Podcast Network. Hearts Unite the Globe is a non-profit organization devoted to providing resources to the congenital heart defect community to uplift, empower, and enrich the lives of our community members. If you would like access to free resources pertaining to the CHD community, please visit our website at www.congenitalheartdefects.com for information about CHD, the hospitals that treat children with CHD, summer camps for CHD survivors, and much, much more.
Marie, in this segment, I really want to talk to you about trusting your mother's instincts. But before we get there, I just want to say how cool those photos were of Anna in her cap and gown. And you have to tell everybody what she put on her cap because that was so cool.
Yeah, I love this tradition that started about the kids decorating their caps for graduation. I missed out when I graduated. She took a long time to figure out what's perfect to be on there. So what she put on there, the message was, the ups and the downs were worth it, was the message.
I just love that.
Yes, she created an anatomically correct heart in glittery scrapbook paper. And then she made an EKG line as the up and down to signify the ups and the downs. So yeah, we were really excited about that.
When I saw that on Facebook, it gave me chills.
Yeah, she was clever. She's a clever girl.
And then it brought tears to my eyes because I knew she'd been through so much. And I thought, oh, Anna, I'm so sorry.
Yep.
She has really been through so much. And what a great accomplishment for her to make it to graduation. And I'm sure you'll tell us later whether or not she's going to college or if she has a job or what she's going to do. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But right now, what I really want to talk about is you trusting your mom's instincts. Because a lot of times I think we doubt ourselves, but you knew in your gut that something was wrong. Talk to us about that.
It was nagging. And she, I was getting text messages from Anna at her school. She would text me about being exhausted and how she had to sit down in the hallway to take a break before she continued. And I'd come home and she'd be asleep. And this, I just knew this wasn't typical teenage behavior in any way.
Right.
It was just really worrisome. And you know what's interesting? Ever since she's been young, I am the person that is calm, cool, collected, and I shelve all my emotions so that I can be focused. And then later, they hit me. I've always been worried about some little thing was going to cause a big problem for her. We have all the big things covered because we have the smartest doctors ever. It always worried me that something small was going to take her down. And so in some ways, this flu was my biggest nightmare come true.
Sure.
Yeah, I just kept listening to her, kept calling the doctors and kept bringing her in to see them. We just didn't stop. We persisted, really.
That's what I love about you, is that you are such a strong advocate. So what was the most frustrating experience since Anna contracted the flu?
So one difficult thing with Anna's history is that she has in the past had anxiety take physical forms beyond butterflies in your belly when you're nervous. There's always a factor about could this be anxiety causing her heart to race, her to be breathless? her to be fatigued, or is it these cardiac symptoms that they were able to detect? So what was so frustrating was that we had to continue to remind ourselves of the physical symptoms we could see. Her liver was enlarging. She was blowing up, retaining fluid. She gained 25 pounds in 2 months.
Oh my gosh.
She blew up. Eventually put her on a restricted diet and restricted fluids to combat the water retention. And they kept upping her diuretics throughout the last year.
Did it help?
Yes, it has helped some. It's helped to kind of keep the fluid at bay, but it hasn't changed her status so much. She's still very bloated. So that hasn't gone away yet. And they're keeping her on the restrictions. And it's, that's not easy. She's restricted to 40 ounces.
Especially for a teenager.
Right. 40 ounces of fluid, only 8 ounces of water a day.
Goodness.
Think about that. That's crazy, right?
That is crazy.
She's really remarkable. She's doing it the best she can.
That's extremely restrictive. So is she thirsty all the time?
All the time. She's dry. Her skin is dry. She's dry. Because then she's also on an elephant's dose of diuretics as well.
There's something else going on here, Marie.
Yeah, they believe they know what's causing the problem. They don't know how to fix it.
That's just so frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
That is so frustrating. Well, what do you wish that you had known then, last year when she was first diagnosed, that you know now?
I don't know. It's always those lessons of, should I have spent more time appreciating the fun times that we had together? Had I known that the year and a half beyond was going to be so difficult, I would have pumped her up with more positives to get her ready. But instead, I'm afraid I was telling her to do her homework and clean her room and all those awful mothery things,
You were treating her like a normal kid. That's what Dr. Marks told you to do. So
Exactly. So I cut myself some slack. As a teacher, we think about filling kids' buckets with all those positives, right? And so if by chance somebody knocks their bucket of love over, then they don't lose so much. So I wish I could have filled her bucket better. We'll get there. We're very hopeful. We have to be, right? We have to be hopeful people. So it's not going to be like this forever.
Well, that is exactly where we have to head, that it's not going to last forever and that she is going to beat this somehow. But when she does, you're going to need to come back on the show and talk about what it was that turned the tide. Because look, we see it doesn't take that much for things to go from stable to, oh my goodness, what in the world is going on? And we have a new chronic illness diagnosis. How do we get back? What's the tipping point? How do we tip it back the other way so that we can be stable again and have energy? I mean, for me, I'm 55 years old. I got bronchitis. It went from viral to bacterial. I took a ton of medicines, and it really took me about 6 weeks to start feeling better. Anna is much younger than I am, and she's been sick so much longer that you wonder, what is it that can help her to get back on that stable path where she has energy? And even now, I'll be honest, I don't feel like I'm 100% full of energy like I was before. I think that, some of these upper respiratory illnesses, especially for our kids, because their lungs have already been compromised by having been on the heart-lung machine, I think it just hits them harder. So what do we have to do to hit back to make it more normal for her?
Yeah, especially kids with the Fontan pathways, because the body already takes a hit because it's not functioning the way that it was meant to.
Right.
And so I think it hits them even harder.
I think it does too.
But yet it's kind of invisible, right? Because they don't seem fragile.
No.
When they're well, right?
They don't.
Yeah. We had lots of years that we forgot.
Tell us what advice you can offer other families who are dealing with something like this, where it's not heart related, but it's something that compromises their entire body. It compromises their health.
I would say to definitely find the right specialists and make sure that the specialists are working together. All of Anna's specialists have Dr. Marks as the go-to. They didn't give her a medication before clearing it with him because there are so many other medications she's on for her heart. That was always a worry for me to make sure they didn't counteract.
Sure.
So you have to make sure that everybody's working from that perspective. And keep listening to your child. It's easy to brush off symptoms. We all do initially because kids are kids, right? But you have to really know when you have to continue to push the medical field. In fact, it was Anna in April of this year who said to Dr. Marks, well, if you don't know what's happening, who do we go to find out what's happening?
Good for her. Wow.
It was pretty remarkable. Of course, all the adults in the room, my husband and I were like, oh, goodness. Dr. Marks is the guy you go to. I said, honey, he is the second opinion. People come from all over the world to ask Dr. Marks what's going on.
But good for her for standing up for herself and saying, okay, you don't know, who else might know? I mean, that was a good question.
It was a turning point because Dr. Marks put us in touch with Dr. Bloom from the Heart Transplant and Heart Failure Clinic from Boston Children's. And it turns out Dr. Bloom is the teenage girl patient whisperer. And she connected with Anna immediately. Dr. Bloom was the one who said to her, you're not going to feel this way forever because I'm going to make sure you don't.
Oh, God bless her. Wow.
That's
amazing. That's just amazing. And that's what you need. You need somebody else who's on your team who says, we're going to go through this together. It's not going to be like this forever.
Exactly.
Okay, so I said earlier that we would find out how Anna is doing now. And I want to know, now that she has graduated, what is next for Anna?
Anna's enrolled in our local community college, Nashua Community College, and her high SAT scores qualified her for a dual enrollment program with the University of New Hampshire. What's great is that she wanted to go to UNH anyway. She wants to be a child life specialist, and they are the only school in the East Coast that has an undergraduate minor in child life. So it's just working out perfectly that she's going to go to the community college while we get her health under control. She's already a student at UNH in their minds. She just has to tell them when she wants to show up. So it's going to be great.
Oh, I just love that. And I love that she's going to be working in a hospital setting and helping other people. That's so awesome. Oh, my gosh.
Yes,
I'm so glad I asked. I'm so glad to hear this.
I know.
Thank you so much for coming on the program today, Marie, and for sharing all of this information with us. We just take for granted that our kids are going to get a cold or maybe even get the flu and be perfectly normal after that. You bringing our attention to the fact that, no, they could develop arthritis or they might develop some liver issues. This is really helpful because now if there's another mom or dad or an adult who hears this and they start having those symptoms, they can say, wait a minute, I know somebody else.
Right. Well, it's been my pleasure, really. I'm always happy to share our experiences because I've learned so much from others too. So we just pass it along.
Well, you were awesome. And that does conclude this episode of Heart to Heart with Anna. Thanks for listening today. Please check out our website for this special program we have for our patrons. You can get special opportunities, merchandise. You might even be able to meet with my Heart to Heart with Anna team in person. All it takes is a small regular donation to make a big difference. Of course, a large donation can make an even greater difference. So go to www.patreon.com/heart-to-heart to learn even more. That's all for this episode of Heart to Heart with Anna. Remember, my friends, you are not alone.
Thank you again for joining us this week. We hope you have been inspired and empowered to become an advocate for the congenital heart defect community. Heart to Heart with Anna, with your host Anna Jaworski, can be heard every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Time.